Okay, so our recording has started. Throughout this, I think we're going to go over our required artifact for our master's program. And we are going to go over a few of the legal and ethical factors that go into education. So I think we're ready to start.
Okay, so the first topic is a teacher topic, and it's about teaching license, contracts, and tenure. So first we're going to talk about teaching license. So this is something that gives you the credential to teach. So most often to get this license, you went to college to get a bachelor's degree or master's, so you finish the educational requirements, student teaching, and pass the required exams like Praxis or EdTPA. There's some legal issues surrounding teaching license, such as teaching without a valid license in a different field of study. This can lead to a loss of state funding for your school district. A license can also be suspended if there's a felony charge against you as a teacher. Ethical issues surrounding this topic are that educators must be honest when they're applying on an application. So they can't lie and be like, I have a degree in this, when they really do not. A contract is an agreement between a school system and a teacher. The contract outlines the terms of appointment, such as the salary and the benefits. Also the time frame, so like a year or 3 years or 5 years. A contract example is a TEAMS teacher. This stands for Teacher Excellence and Accountability for Mathematics and Science. This program allows STEM teachers in Alabama to make up to $20,000 more a year, but they're never tenured. To be allowed to this program, you must possess an advanced credential, such as being National Board Certified, and teach full-time in math or science grades 6 to 12. Legal issues surrounding contracts are that they state a teacher's salary and the time of employment. If a contract is broken, a teaching license may be suspended. Ethical issues are that the teacher who has signed the contract must fulfill the time length that is stated on the contract. Lastly, tenure. Tenure is granted to teachers after they teach for a total of 3 years. This is in Alabama. Before they are tenured, there is a period called probationary. It is a 1-year contract. While in this period, a school district can pink slip you. So they can fire you with no hearing. They don't have to have a reason. You just come into school and hear that you're let go. It is intended to protect educators from being fired for political and personal reasons once you're tenured. If a school wants to dismiss a tenured teacher, there's a process they must go through with documented evidence, with a cause, and provide the teacher with a hearing. The main legal issue surrounding tenured is that for the first 3 years of teaching, you don't know if you're going to have a job the next year. Even if someone is tenured, they may be fired upon written notice of charges. There's an ethical issue about whether once a teacher becomes tenured, they stop performing to their full potential, because they know that security of the job. They know the next year there's not going to be a pink slip on their desk and they're not going to be let go. They're probably still going to be there. So they start getting more relaxed and laid back. Impact on stakeholders. For students, these things ensure they're being taught consistent academic standards. For educators and administrators, they have job security and protection. Some recommendations I would give. Strong administration. This allows the teachers to feel supported. Administrative visits. This helps the tenured teachers to not get relaxed and start being laid back. And have high qualified teachers. The next topic is a student topic. It's search and seizure. Search and seizure in a school setting is when a school official looks over students' belongings and examines them, and has the possibility to seize any prohibited items the student's not supposed to have. The Fourth Amendment is how school districts are able to do the search of the students. School administrators do not have to have a warrant to search a student. They just have to have reasonable suspicion that they broke the student of conduct or the law. The New Jersey versus TLO 1985 case is when the Supreme Court established a reasonable suspension law. This means that if the search is conducted, there will be evidence of a broken law or code of conduct. TLO did break the code of conduct and did not want to be searched, but when they searched her, they found out that she did have stuff that was absolutely against the law, but they did not have a warrant to search her. They were still able to do this because of the Fourth Amendment. The legal issues around search and seizure are that the search is intrusive to the student. If a male needed to be searched, then the male school official must search him. Same for the female. So if if a certain gender is being searched, then that same gender needs to perform the search. The ethical issues surrounding search and seizure are students' privacy. The privacy of the student is being broken. You're going through their personal belongings. It feels invasive to them, but this can protect other students from being put in harm. Students also believe that they can deny a search, but they are not. The search is justified and the method of the search is related to the violation believed to have occurred. Students begin to feel mistrusted, and this can lead to a shift in the classroom environment. Administrators and teachers risk liability when performing a search. Recommendations. Know the legal standards. Before you do the search, you need to make sure that you follow every legal standard. Maintain safety when performing the search and after the search has taken place. Keep documentation. The student and the teacher doing the search both need to keep documentation on both sides.
Okay, so I'm going to be covering individuals with disabilities, and this is a student topic. All right, so why does this topic matter for our students? Every student deserves an equitable access to an education, and students with disabilities are protected by federal law. Schools have both legal and ethical responsibilities to support student success. So inclusive educational practices benefit all learners. So the key laws that protect these students would be the IDEA. Is that not popping up?
No, ma'am. It's on the bottom, though. Nothing after that is popping up. Like they're all blank.
Okay. Can
But
you unshare your screen and I'll share mine?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Which is crazy because they were popping up yesterday, so I'm not really sure what happened. Sorry, everyone. Technical difficulties. Okay. Okay. Share. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, the key laws that protect this these students would be the Individuals with Disability Education Act, and this ensures eligible students with disabilities, they receive a free appropriate public education, which is where we get FAPE. It requires schools to develop an individualized education program, so your IEPs tailored to each student's needs. And it guarantees education in the least restrictive environment. So a lot of these terms we hear as teachers, so FAPE, IEP, LREs, and these come from the Individuals with Disability Education Act. So Section 504 in the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in programs receiving federal funding. So therefore, it provides accommodations and supports that allow students equal access to educational opportunities. And it covers some students who may not qualify for special education services under the IDEA. A lot of times students will not qualify for an IEP, but they may qualify for a 504. So this coming into play in 1973 was a major improvement in education. So these laws matter because they ensure that students with disabilities have equitable access to educational opportunities, they're protected from discrimination, and they receive the reports necessary to achieve academic success. Student-centered practices would include early identification of disabilities, appropriate interventions and supports, progress monitoring, student voice and participation, and high expectations and individualized instruction. So that's going to be your accommodations such as like small group, one-on-one, that kind of thing. Student voice and participation is very important because a lot of times students can tell us what they need better than what we can see. So just for an example, this is a case study overview. So William V. Clarksville Montgomery County School System. The background of this case was that a student received special education services for years. He continued to struggle with reading despite interventions, and he had dyslexia, and it was not identified until high school. So he received, I believe, started receiving special education services in fourth grade. He made it all the way to high school in the 11th grade when his teacher observed that he was illiterate. He could not write, he could not read. And so his family challenged that he, the school did not provide FAPE. So legal and ethical lessons from this case would be that schools need to monitor progress and adjust services when needed. Students should not make it till the 11th grade for us to find out that they cannot read or write. Delayed identification can negatively impact student outcomes. So for example, he had a reading goal and a math goal and a writing goal, but it did not identify that he was dyslexic. So he was not getting the appropriate services and interventions. Student needs should drive educational decisions. So our educational decisions should be based on what a student needs. So the impact on stakeholders for this law would be that students have access to appropriate services and opportunities. For families, it's meaningful participation in educational decisions. So when an IEP meeting comes up, families should be involved in that so they can they can advocate for their child. Educators and administrators, so responsibility to implement effective legally compliant supports. That's very important. Admin, they sit in at IEP meetings and they need to have a voice within the student as well because they are usually one of the most important stakeholders when it comes to making that decision. So recommendations for schools moving forward would be to strengthen early screening and intervention. If a child is presenting with a disability or dyslexic tendencies, that intervention probably needs to be made in early elementary. They need to provide professional development on disabilities and accommodations. So, for example, in the William V. Clarksville Montgomery County School System case, the teachers were technically at fault because they did not identify that the student was dyslexic and that he was illiterate. And so therefore he graduated high school with a 3.2 GPA, I think it was. But it was just because his teachers were solely pushing him along and not actually giving him the appropriate services. So use data to evaluate student progress and build strong family school partnerships, and then focus on student outcomes, not just compliance. And there are my references. Okay, I will stop sharing and then we can go back to,
Can you
yes.
click for me, or do you mind?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sorry, I'm just unfamiliar with Teams, so I'm afraid it'll take me a while to figure out how to share.
You're fine. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen right now?
Not yet. No.
Okay. What about now?
Yes.
Perfect. And see, all of my slides are popping up right now. That's crazy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll be discussing the teacher topic, Alabama Educator Code of Ethics, and its role guiding professional conduct, protecting students' rights, and promoting ethical leadership in schools. The code exists to protect students, educators, and the integrity of public schools. It establishes expectations for professional behavior and accountability, and was created because educators occupy positions of trust and influence. According to the code, the primary responsibility of educators is creating environments where all students can learn. It serves as a guide to ethical conduct and protects the health, safety, and general welfare of students and educators. Its creation was due to decades of court decisions, educator misconduct cases, and constitutional principles and public expectations regarding schools. It reflects how public schools operate within a legal framework established by constitutions, statutes, regulations, and court decisions. Its purpose is to strengthen trust, communication, and professionalism within school communities. School leaders must also understand the legal framework affecting public schools because ethical decisions often have legal consequences. As you can see, this is Surratt's framework of influence. His framework argues that educational leaders should evaluate decisions through the three ethical lenses: the ethics of care, justice, and critique. The Alabama Educator Code of Ethics reflects all these three perspectives. Caring educators prioritize student welfare, just educators ensure fairness, and critical educators evaluate policies and practices to ensure students are treated equitably. Next, we have the student rights and due process.
There it goes.
Oh, there we go. For the students' rights and due process, the main court case is Goss versus Lopez. The Supreme Court held that students have due process rights when facing suspension. This decision reinforces the ethical principles found in the Alabama Code. Educators must ensure discipline is fair, consistent, and supported by appropriate procedures, and must make disciplinary decisions based on evidence and procedures. Ethical leadership requires balancing school safety and with students' rights, honesty, and integrity of the course of professional practice. The court case that was for protecting students through professional boundaries. One of the most important sections of the Alabama Code involves the students through professional boundaries, maintaining professional relationships with students. Cases such as Gebser and Davis demonstrate the serious legal consequences that can result when educators or school systems fail to protect students from misconduct or harassment. Ethical educators understand that protecting students is both a legal and moral responsibility. Best educational practices include maintaining clear professional boundaries, reporting concerns immediately, and documenting incidents appropriately. The code states that unethical conduct includes soliciting, encouraging, or consuming an inappropriate written, verbal, or physical relationship with a student or committing any acts of child abuse. Next, for confidentiality and trust. Confidentiality is essential to maintaining trust with students and families. Educators frequently have access to sensitive information. The code and federal law through FERPA requires educators to safeguard student records and disclose information only when legally permitted. Violations can damage trust and expose districts to legal liability. For best practices, educators should share information only with personnel who have a legitimate educational interest and follow FERPA and district policies. The code states that keeping in confidence information about students that has been obtained in the course of professional service. For professional conduct, speech, and public trust, teachers have constitutional rights, but those rights exist alongside professional obligations. The court case Pickering helped define those boundaries between personal speech and professional responsibilities. Ethical educators recognize that public behavior can influence community trust and perceptions of professionalism. I think the key takeaway is that professional behavior often extends beyond the classroom. The code states that an educator should exemplify honesty and integrity in the course of professional practice. For accountability and ethical decision-making, ethical leadership depends on accountability. The Alabama Code makes it clear that educators are responsible for following laws, protecting public resources, and reporting unethical conduct. Ethical cultures develop when educators hold themselves and one another accountable. For professional behavior, educators are required to report any code violations as soon as possible and no later than 60 days. The code states that an educator should abide by federal, state, and local laws and statutes, and that because they are entrusted with public funds and property, they should honor that trust with a high level of honesty, accuracy, and responsibility. And lastly, for the key takeaways for our stakeholders, the Alabama Educator Code of Ethics is more than just a set of rules. It serves as a framework for professional decision-making and ethical leadership. By applying Stirrat's ethical framework and understanding of legal precedents behind all of these standards, educators can foster trust, transparency, and positive school cultures. Remember that the code serves to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of students and educators. Thank you all for your time today. That concludes my part of the presentation, and I believe our entire presentation for the key legal and ethical issues impacting students and teacher rights and responsibilities in public education. I hope you can take these legal precedents and best practices and apply them to your teaching or leadership within your schools. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for being here. Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks,
Y'all
you
too.
too.
You're welcome.
All right, so